So what did I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What did I tell you? I told you that week 14 of this 2023 NFL season, or just, well, in general, annually, week 14, the second week of December football, was going to get crazy in terms of the shuffling, the messiness of the playoff picture. Messier than the first week of December football. So why is that? Well, let's talk about the week that was week 14 of this NFL regular season. So first things first, we had our final two teams on their bye weeks, and that was the Arizona Cardinals and the Washington Commanders. So they'll be returning from their late, out-of-date vacation, and they'll be joining the rest of the squad in the final 4 weeks of the regular season, and everyone will be back in action from this point onward. So let's talk about the games that were, starting with Thursday Night Football, only on Amazon Prime Video, as Bailey Zappi looked like Tom Brady on that Pittsburgh Steelers defense in the first half, and a second half comeback for the Steelers was pretty much all for naught because of some odd last-minute decisions from the one, the only, MVP Mitch Trubisky, as the Patriots dealt a big blow to the Steelers' playoff hopes, beating them 21-18. Then we get to the Sunday morning slate of games, again starting with the early morning portion, as Baker Mayfield threw up a clutch lob pass to his tight end Cade Otton with 35 seconds left, as the Bucs came out on top in a back-and-forth battle for first place in the NFC South over the Falcons, 29-25. Down in the wet, soaking rain of Baltimore, Tylan Wallace was the hero for the Ravens as he shook off a bunch of Rams players to run back a big punt return for the win in the extra period, beating the Rams 37-31 in overtime in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. Justin Fields and the Bears sliced and diced the Lions' paper-thin defense and severely limited Jared Goff on the other end, as the Bears notched up a big upset win over the Lions 28-13. Yeah, literally, that score, ladies and gentlemen. So, down in Cincinnati, even with cramps in his hands, Jake Browning, the backup quarterback, followed up his surprise Monday night breakout performance in Jacksonville with a 3-touchdown showing at home to give the Bengals a key playoff tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts 31-14. Joe Flacco turned back the clock as he sliced and diced the all-elite Jaguars defense all game long, and the Browns defense shut the door on any comeback from Trevor Lawrence in the Jags 31-27. Derek Carr and the Saints ran away with the game late, with Carr's 2 touchdowns to Chris Olave and Jimmy Graham sealing the deal on their season sweep of the Carolina Panthers 28-6. Down in the gangrene side of New York, there were murmurs about Zach Wilson getting traded after the season was over with, but they still handed him the starting job. And Zach Wilson, he handled that starting opportunity relatively smoothly against the Houston Texans, as the Jets cruised to a 30-6 win and an upset over Houston, who now have their concussed quarterback, CJ Stroud, now on the suddenly growing list of injuries for Houston as they try to keep their own playoff hopes alive. Talk about ouch, ladies and gentlemen. Now in the afternoon slate of games, and for this first one, I don't even know what to make of this game. I don't even know how this game went a near full 58 scoreless minutes. But kicker Greg Joseph ended everyone's misery, but I don't even know if you could call it misery. But nonetheless, he put points on the board, and the Raiders were shut out by the Minnesota Vikings 3-0. Like, what was this game? Like, if you even how was it on the NFL YouTube channel? How did you even make up 11 minutes of freaking highlights from that game? Like, how? So keep in mind, though, Josh Dobbs, his magic was officially sapped out because he got benched in the fourth quarter for Big Dick Nick Mullins. So some of you Niners fans may remember Nick Mullins during the dark days of the Niners era 5 years ago. But nonetheless, yeah, weird game. Very weird game. Speaking of my 49ers, the three-headed dragon, we're in much better times now, by the way. The three-headed dragon of Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, as well as George Kittle. So basically, four-headed dragon were an explosive force in a hard-fought battle against the Drew Lock-led Seahawks, as the 49ers completed the season sweep over the Seahawks 28-16 at home. Travis Kelce's lateral catch and pass to Kadarius Toney in the final minute would have been a pretty cool play and would have led to the Kansas City Chiefs winning that game on a go-ahead touchdown. Unfortunately, Tony made a very bad decision. He lined up offsides, and that negated the big play. And the Bills managed to hold off the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. Talk about ouch right there. Denver took advantage of Justin Herbert's departure for injury as Russell Wilson torched the Chargers for 2 second-half touchdowns to keep the Broncos in the playoff hunt, and now within one game of their AFC West division, 24-7. And then in the Sunday Night Football game of week number 14, the Cowboys went on a first-half scoring surge and forced 3 turnovers on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles as they absolutely crushed their division rivals for a key win, 33-13. And then we had a Monday Night Football doubleheader, the one of final 2 of the regular season. And in the first one, Will Levis rallied his team back down from a 27-13 deficit with less than 5 minutes left to go as the Titans stopped Tua and the Dolphins on their last gasp to garner an upset 28-27. Meanwhile, in the big blue side of New York, despite a back-breaking fumble by Saquon Barkley late in the game, Danny DeVito rallied his team back through a big-time clutch throw to get his kicker, Randy Bullock, in position for a game-winning field goal and a big upset over the Packers, 24-22, sorry. But that, nonetheless, that was your recap. Those were your scores around the league for week 14 of this 2023 NFL season. See? Told you there was a lot of weirdness around the league this week. Yeah. But when I talk about the playoff picture in just a bit, we'll see how these teams got affected. But nonetheless, let's talk first about my winners and losers from this week. Starting with the Denver Broncos as my winner yet again. I mean, yeah, they're not playing the prettiest of ball, especially when you watch that game against the Chargers in the first half. But in the second half, you started to see, there's the Broncos team that that they were on in this winning streak. That the quality of play that they had during their winning streak. So they bounced back on both sides of the ball in the second half. Russell Wilson played a cleaner game this week, and considering how the Chiefs are playing right now, and in contrast to Denver, they lost, 3 of 4 now, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Broncos, they've won a couple of games now. A crack at the division title is not out of the realm of the possibility for the Broncos. I mean, sure, they still have to hope Kansas City drops one more, and maybe even 2. I mean, yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility if you're the Denver Broncos. It sounds crazy to say, but you never know. You just never know. It is what it is. And then the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the skid marks, ladies and gentlemen. And I know it's just 1 week, and I know they're on their 4th quarterback of the season, but it seems like the Browns found, at least for this, at least the final 4 weeks, and I know it sounds stupid to say, they found their quarterback that can at least help them nab one of the AFC's playoff spots, and maybe even like the first highest wildcard spot possible, and that is Joe Flacco. He's very solid in slicing and dicing the Jaguars defense this week, and he's a experienced veteran. I mean, not the greatest veteran right out there right now, but he at least can help lead that Browns offense, can at least stabilize it some. While the Browns defense, I mean, it's the top 1 in the league, and they showed absolutely no mercy for Trevor Lawrence and his bum ankle. So as long as they can keep having Joe Flacco playing well and the defense does its business as usual, I think the Browns will find a way to clinch that one of those playoff spots. Now, in terms of the losers, the Detroit Lions, easily. They had an absolutely winnable game against the Chicago Bears, and they absolutely shit the bed. They shit the bed on the road. And there's a lot of glaring concerns on defense. They just continue to fall apart at the worst time imaginable. Their defense just allowed Justin Fields to boat race them, like absolutely boat race them. And Jared Goff struggled under pressure against a Bears defensive front. If someone could correct me if there's injuries on the offensive line, maybe that plays a role in that. But nonetheless, regardless, this team is really struggling right now. And what I didn't like is head coach Dan Campbell getting too overly aggressive on 4th down. He's getting like too greedy by going for it on 4th down, and it's really starting to backfire on him each and every time his offense turns it over on downs. They fail on 4th down. And now going into this next 2-game stretch at home against Denver, and then you have to go to Dallas in what's likely to be a very key game for them before they go on this 2-1-2 stretch against the Minnesota Vikings, which could potentially now decide the division because they lost two key games against the Bears and the Packers. This is bad. This is kind of bad for the Detroit Lions. So are we sure that the Lions are up to the task of locking down this division for sure? Are we? And then the Miami Dolphins, man. Oh, I guess it could be made official now if it hasn't already been clear enough. No matter who they play, I guess whether it's a playoff contender or it's someone like the Tennessee Titans, the Miami Dolphins are complete frauds. They are absolute frauds. Tua just looked completely lost without Tyreek Hill. And yeah, I get it. The injury didn't help Tyreek and all that. But it's become apparent that Tyreek is pretty much the glue in that offense because Tua, he for whatever reason doesn't trust his other best receiver in Jalen Waddle, and I guess nobody else over there. The running game was lacking, and then the defense repeatedly allowed so many explosive plays from Will Levis and the Tennessee offense that it made the Titans look like the Dolphins. It's not. I don't know if that's stupid to say, but well, look at the score. Just look at the score and look how many more explosive plays that the Tennessee Titans did than Miami in that game. So what I'm saying is the Dolphins had a prime opportunity to keep hold of that top seed on Monday, keep pace with Baltimore especially, but now they're looking up at the Ravens. They now have to hope that the Ravens slip up at least once, maybe even twice, heading into that big showdown in Week 17 when the Ravens host the Dolphins. Because, damn, the Dolphins just couldn't get it done. They once again flat out got outplayed in the brightest lights possible. And worse yet, keep this in mind, if they keep playing like this, especially with the schedule coming up, you have the Jets, who, yes, they have Zach Wilson, but they still play hard. And then you got after that, it gets really tough from there. The Cowboys, and then the Ravens, and then guess who's kind of creeping up a little bit? The Bills. The Bills are, yeah, they kind of snuck by the Kansas City Chiefs, but if they somehow find a way against the Cowboys next week, you never know. You never know. And then they have a little bit of a softer schedule with the Chargers, the Patriots. Man, the Dolphins could be in a little bit of serious trouble if they don't get their act together quick. So now, speaking of the playoff picture, let's look at the playoff picture coming out of Week 14. So as I said in my preview, ladies and gentlemen, this playoff picture was going to get even messier once this week was done with, and it certainly did. It certainly did. So let's look at the AFC playoff picture. It gets a little bit messier in this conference because, well, especially at the bottom. Let's look at the top first, because the race for the top seed, it's pretty much all in Baltimore's hands. It's pretty much all in Baltimore's cards because, well, thanks to their gutsy win at home, and pretty much Miami shitting the bed a day later against the Titans. And then you have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jaguars sitting at 8-5, but the problem is they lost their second straight games respectively, and now they gotta hope for some help from losses by the Ravens and the Dolphins consecutively. So the Chiefs, especially if they don't want to play a playoff game and bitch about it on the road, then they gotta find a way to win, solve their problems, and hope for some help in these next 4 weeks. The wildcard race is very messy. It's an absolute mess because we have so many 7-6 teams that, well, obviously you can't fit everybody. Still a lot to sort out, though, because this next week is probably going to do such, especially with some of these injuries from a few of these teams that one domino is about to fall and the next one is about to fall, and so on and so forth. Now, on the NFC side of things, there's a new top seed in the NFC. There's a new kingpin in town, and their name is San Francisco. So San Francisco took care of its business against the Seattle Seahawks. They knew their mission. They avoided their letdown mostly after putting on the statement against Philadelphia. But now, after taking care of business at home against Seattle, they watched clearly and kindly to that Sunday night game, and the Cowboys beat the Eagles handedly. So the 49ers vaulted up to the top of the conference and now pretty much control their own path to home field advantage in the NFC. So also, they also got gifted a playoff ticket early, thanks to the Giants upsetting the Packers on Monday night. So pretty much now, it's pretty much step by step by step for San Francisco here. Next week, they're eligible to clinch the division in Arizona. It's step by step for San Francisco from here. For the rest of the NFC, the Cowboys, by beating the Philadelphia Eagles, they overtake them in the NFC East. They also take the NFC's number 2 seed. The Eagles dipped to the 5 seed. They pretty much take the Cowboys spot in the first wild card spot. So, I mean, there's still a lot to sort out. Still a lot of games left to be played. So the Eagles pretty much control the path to the NFC East, especially considering with their schedule compared to the Cowboys. But in terms of the rest, I mean, there really isn't much change in the wild card picture below the Eagles, but the Packers' loss to the Giants kind of hurts them a bit because there's a bunch of other teams down there below them that's going to be really gunning for their ass. Because, yeah, that's something that they did not want to have. A loss to the Giants, and then a bunch of other teams are coming up real slowly for them. You have the Bucs coming up. You have not in terms of their schedule, the Bucs, the Rams, Saints, Seahawks. There's a lot of teams below the Packers gunning for that number 7 seed. And we didn't even talk about the Minnesota Vikings, but they have some quarterback issues that they need to resolve that I'm not sure if they're going to be holding on to that 6 seed for much longer. But still playing to sort out. There's 4 games left in the regular season, and definitely still some things to clean up and narrow down as we head towards the finish line of another NFL season. So yeah, that is the playoff picture as we speak of, and another week in the books. And as I said in the preview of week 14, it's only going to get even wilder. It's only going to get even crazier. That's December football. And well, just we wait till the dawn of Christmas in a couple weeks. But for now, we march forward to week 15. And we'll see what happens there. But anyway, that is it for your week 14 recap of the 2023 NFL season. Let me know how your team did or didn't do in the comments below. And if your team is qualifying for a playoff spot at the moment, let me know how they're doing or, well, how they're failing to try and nab one of those playoff spots in the comments below as well. Anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out of another NFL recap for this season. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until the next one, peace out.